then jump on, have a live. Time is always key. So when you have those minutes, make the most of it. So I just quickly want to jump on and say quickly, I wanted to thank anyone that subscribed recently. Thank you very much. I also want to thank my Facebook subscribers. So any of my members that have jumped over to this channel, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to unpack a few topics this morning, go over a few things, touch base with everyone, check in on everyone. And I said, I really enjoy these lives, so hopefully you enjoy them as well. Whether you're watching it now or you watch it later, please drop any comments below, anything you want to talk about, anything you've seen out there in terms of fishing, whatever, go for it. As I said, got to always make the moments count when you have a spare minute. If you can't actually go fishing, I thought, well, I'll just quickly jump on and do a live. So I think today what I want to talk about is when I'm looking, I really like the Metro land-based game. It's really tough, at times. Sometimes you just got to put so many sessions in for little reward. But then when you have those red hot sessions and everything comes together, the stars align, you get all the conditions that you want in your favor, and you have those, those epic sessions. Sometimes I could have a beach all to myself and I'm just, catching fish after fish, and I'm just absolutely buzzing. Adrenaline, for a few days, you're just still kicking, and I just think, oh, that was all worth it. So I said, I really do enjoy the Metro land-based game. I said, a lot of people, have said to me over the years, there's no fish in Perth. And look, at times it can be quiet, but I guess for me, what I wanted to talk about today was how I go about planning my week. If I'm looking at fishing, where do I start? Where do I start the planning process? And if you are new to beach fishing or fishing in general, WA Perth, we're a really seasonal state, and we're so blessed to have such an amazing fishery literally at our doorstep. And for me personally, I love catching tailor. Like, I absolutely love catching tailor. So in WA, we are actually fortunate. We can catch these amazing fish all year round. The only difference really is that the size of the fish will vary depending on the time of year, and the size of the school, as in the amount of fish in that school, will change, over the months depending on when you want to fish. So look, we're in July. Happy 1st of July. I can't believe we're in July. It's the 7th month already. So we're actually on the back end of the year, and we've had our shortest day as well. So now every day we're gaining time, which I love. Our sunrise is getting earlier, our sunsets are getting later. So, it won't be long really until we start to get a lot more time to go out and explore and fish. So typically, we're in July, so we're in a really good month for large fish and small fish. So it's probably one of the best months for the variety of species that we can actually catch, in the WA coast. And I'm going to just keep it to the Metro land-based scene for now, and we can dive into coastal elements later. But, so we're in the 1st of July. What have we got? We've got a Tuesday. There's some bad weather coming on Wednesday and Thursday. But typically what I'll do, the first thing I'll do for the week is I want to look at my winds. Now, the winds will definitely change. But when I'm planning my land, this is all land-based. I'm just going to purely just be talking about land-based today. When I am planning my land-based session, I like to look at the winds. What's the wind forecast? Have we got easterlies? Have we got southwesters? Have we got westerlies? If we have north winds, I generally won't fish north winds. Northwest winds are absolutely great for snapper. But if I've got a north or northeast wind sort of over that 15 to 20 kilometre range, I won't typically go and cast off a beach. That's just my personal opinion. It doesn't mean that there's no fish there, and it doesn't mean you won't catch fish. But yeah, so typically the first thing I do is I look at the week. I'll check my winds in the morning, my winds in the middle of the day, my winds in the afternoon, and then I'll check my evening winds and see if anything that stands out, or I think personally this time I can go, to an open beach, a rock wall groin, or go and stand on some reef and throw some unweighted baits or lures. So I'm always, the first thing I'm doing when I'm planning my session, the location really for me, I'm going to go on about location so many times on these videos, but location is this, look, that small of the puzzle to the Metro game. Fish constantly move. Yes, bait will hold around structure, absolutely, but the schooling fish are constantly moving. I can go to Floreat Drain, I can go to Mullaloo, for example. I can have an epic session today. I can go back tomorrow and not get a bite. So these fish are constantly moving. And I think if you're getting focused, so much on location, you're going to miss fish. You really got to be thinking seasonal what's swimming in our waters, what can I target and how to target it. And there's a million ways to do this, but location for me is just such a small part of it. So as I said, first thing I'll do is look at the winds, wind directions, wind speed, and then I'll start to plan where I can go and fish depending on those winds. Number two, the next thing I look at is what's our moon phase? What are we doing? What are we coming up? Are we got a lead up to a new moon, a lead up to a full moon? They're my two favorite periods to fish. So when there's 2 days before a new moon, and then up to the new moon, and then 2 days before a full moon, and then up to that full moon. So fish that full moon morning, that full moon evening. They're my two favorite times to fish off the beach, rock walls and groins. I find that fish in New Zealand, look, I reckon that it probably does have the best fish in New Zealand. I am going to respond to some of the comments in this live as well. So I haven't actually been in New Zealand, so I'd love to go over there and chase some big kingfish land-based, maybe not some of the boat, just off the stones. I'd love to do that. So New Zealand is a great fishery, absolutely. I watch plenty of anglers over there catching stonker snapper and large kingfish. So as I said, the first thing I'll do is look at the winds. Next thing is I check my moon phase. And then sort of after that, I'm thinking, okay, what's the tides doing? Because again, this is the biggest thing. Depending on where you're going to go fish, the tides will affect that location. So for example, at the moment with our structure, a lot of our open beaches, there is a front gutter at the moment, but it's very, very shallow. Not a lot of bait or fish is going to be holding there. So the waves are breaking quite a fair distance out, making it pretty hard to actually fish the open beaches. So when I'm looking at my tides, again, for the week that I want to go fish, when I'm picking my days, I want to fish an incoming tide or a high tide, depending on where I am. If I am wanting to stand on some reef and physically throw, again, unweighted baits or lures, I don't mind a low tide because I can get out closer to the structure and I can really work those edges. So the tides for me really depends on where I want to fish. Now, I've got Saturday, I've got marked my calendar this week. Saturday for me, I reckon is going to fish extremely well. Now, I'm going to go on why do I think Saturday's going to fish extremely well locally? We've got a high tide an hour before first light, so we're going to have slack water on sunrise. That is absolutely ideal. So we've got the largest volume of water off our beaches, right at our feet. We're going to have no water movement as that sunrise first light period comes. That is absolutely ideal for mulloway. Soaking fresh baits for mulloway, larger tailor, even snapper off the cast. I think this Saturday looks really, really good. So I'm always looking at my tides as well when I'm planning, my local sessions. And then the other one that I have found over this that's worked really, really well to pay a little bit of attention. Now, there's a lot of free apps as well, so you don't need to pay for apps for this information. You can just do Google searches for all the things I mentioned, and you can just browse, until you find the apps or sites that you enjoy or that you find the most reliable. Now, as I said, the wind will change every day, so you have to be checking these apps, the wind, before you actually go out and do your session. And it said, if the wind isn't in the right direction, go and still fish if you can. It's, the fish is still there. This is my process, what works for me. And I said, over the years, certain winds will fish better at certain locations. So it's all about getting out there, having a crack, trial and error. And then when you get those basic principles down pat, I just think you catch more fish. So the other one that I reckon is really good to focus on is your barometer. So when you've got a real sharp increase, so say you've got a 10-10 or 10-12, so a really low barometer, and then it's just going to shoot straight up to like a 10-15 to 10-20, but over, say, a 24 period, I like to fish as it gradually rises, because that sort of triggers some of those fish to come back in and feed. And then we've got it, so we had recently just like a 10-20 to 10-30 barometer, so really, really stable barometer. I like to fish when that goes bang, straight down. So tomorrow we've got some weather shifting, so that barometer is going to go straight back down. So really good time to fish. Obviously, when it goes down to its lowest, that's, when your snapper and your larger mulloway will be cruising the rock walls and groins, foraging for some fresh food. And then you'll find after Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it just switches. It just goes straight back up. And then Saturday, with that high tide, it's got a really good barometer. So I like, as it's going to go back up on Saturday, it combined with that high tide just before first light, slack water, less water movement. It really does scream fish. So, it's also too, I guess, with your fishing, how serious do you want to take it? If you just want to go and have a crack, grab your rod and go and have a cast. And if something comes past, happy days. But if you are looking at increasing your catch rate, And I fish for so many reasons: mental health, just to distract myself from the everyday struggles, the daily grind. But I also do fish to feed, to feed my family. So when I am going out in the hopes that I can bring home some fresh fillets, whether it's little sand whiting, herring, tailor, skippy, snapper, flathead, mulloway. I mean, we are so spoilt for choice in WA. We absolutely got so many options. I've only just touched on what you can actually catch off the beaches. So as I said, we're in July now. So at this time of year, the water will start cooling down. So you've got, so much of you've got snapper, mulloway, larger tailor, big herring, skippy, lots of sand whiting. So believe it or not, in winter we get really well conditioned sand whiting. So that's what the tailor and the mulloway and snapper predominantly will eat off our local beaches, along with those mullets that are, the schools of mullet that are congregating around all your local reefs. So they're going to migrate up north. So under those schools of mullet are larger species as well. But you can actually catch some really good sand whiting this time of year. So we've got a ton of options. As I said, this week, I look at the winds, the wind speed, the wind directions. I then check the moon phase. Then I check my tides. And then I'll check my barometer, increases, decreases. And then if it's stable for a couple of days, solid, I know that I can go usually down to a local beach. Again, I'll just say an open beach, for example, set up some burley. Those sand whiting will come in. You've got a chance of flathead is still in the river and the beach. It's quite incredible, really. And you've got a chance of knowing. So I think this week, this Saturday, with that high tide before sunrise, you soak some fresh bait in those front sections, set up some burley. I think you're in for a shot of a nice school mulloway locally, still some snapper, big tailor. Some of the tailor, I spoke to a young keen angler a couple of days ago, and he got a 76 just around the corner from me. So that's incredible. He released it, which is fair play, a lot of respect there. But there is some really large, healthy tail, and they pull line on light tackles. So I just wanted to jump on and do a quick live, as I said, because I don't always get to have the time to do this. So when I have those little windows, I'll take them. As I said, always like to acknowledge all the other content creators out there, the men, the women, the boys and girls that are working, grinding it out, going to school and trying to do some social media after. I just want to credit Jude, just give you the credit and thank you for providing the content, entertainment and education that you're doing. And as I said, I want to thank any of the new subscribers that have jumped on. Hopefully you're enjoying the chats. As I said, we'll hopefully get some filming when we get some time. And I said, all my Facebook subscribers, members, thank you kindly for jumping over and joining us on the YouTube as well. So that's about it for now. I've got 3 or 4 reels I've got to clean up and get off to service. And then we can start thinking. But I think for me personally, even this afternoon, they've got some light winds. Have got an outgoing tide, but definitely be worth a shot for throwing some lures around some reefy areas. And then I said, I think Saturday I'll focus a lot of time and energy in that slack tide, that early morning high tide. Sunday looks a little bit blown out with that northerly. But as I said, you've just got to constantly be checking the weather, keeping up to date what's going on. And I said, the more time you can put into your session, the more fish you're going to catch. And it really is that simple. So I wish everyone a good week going forward, and hopefully we can have some fun over the weekend. Thanks for watching as always. Until next time, cheers.